Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit 411 podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Barton, and we are a podcast that helps bring resources to nonprofits to help them thrive. And I'm so excited to have our guest on with us today. We have Chiara and Michael Ofuani from Ofuani Legal Group. They specialize in nonprofit law, and I am so excited to welcome them. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
So
Thank you.
tell
Thank
me
you.
a little, yes. So glad. I haven't had two guests yet. So you're my first podcast with two guests, and you're actually my first guest from outside of West Virginia. So that's exciting as we grow. So tell me a little bit about Ofuani Legal Group and how you got started in working in and serving the nonprofit sector.
Yes, so we started our law firm in 2020, just trying to focus on entrepreneurship and building legacy for family and things of that nature. But I have a background in nonprofit law or just nonprofit in general. I grew up in the nonprofit space. My mom had a nonprofit and did grant writing and things of that nature. And so I kind of grew up in that space, helping get grants and things like that so that we can do programming. And so as I got older, I ended up getting my master's in nonprofit management and just like working within groups, doing different projects. And when I went to law school, I wasn't particularly thinking that nonprofit law was the route, but because I never actually heard of a nonprofit attorney until I got to law school. And so that kind of what, trickled going into that. It was like I was focusing on different social justice causes and started encountering different nonprofits that actually needed attorneys and things of that nature. And so fast forward, after, trying to do just different civil practices and things of that nature, we niched our business to just nonprofits and faith-based groups and things like that. So it was really like a trial and error of figuring out what worked best for us, what causes and missions that we wanted to focus on and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually, until I started working with you, had also never heard of a nonprofit attorney. And I know so frequently I've encountered nonprofits who need legal services and legal support. And so it's really exciting to have you on and have you talk about some of the challenges and needs of nonprofits. And Michael, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, Chiara hit it on the head. We really were focused on making sure that we're doing more for the community. We saw the importance of, or at least the difficulty of just really finding that balance between man's law and God's law. And so that's really what put us out on this pathway of the nonprofit 411, just make sure that we're empowering ourselves first and empowering our family. So yes, Kyra definitely hit it on the head, at least, and just making sure that that's the main thing, because a lot of families are really trying to figure out ways that they can be charitable in nature and still fund themselves and still empower themselves. And so a lot of things we're seeing is exactly what Nonprofit 401 says, is empowering nonprofits one resource at a time. We're seeing in-kind donations has been the best things. So really just collaborating more has been our main issue, because we really already have access to what we need. We just need to figure out who's already doing what we are doing and just more so align with them and make it much easier for us.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about law in the legal, I don't know the legal environment for nonprofits. What is important for nonprofits to know about legal issues related to being that type of business? I think often nonprofit individuals who go into nonprofits, they're really passionate about a cause and they don't realize that there are legal requirements around nonprofit organizations. So can you tell me a little bit about that and how you support them?
Yes, definitely. So I believe that really the biggest thing that we see a lot is people not having their 501c3 status, or at least having their 501c3 status as far as having federal recognition, but not being registered in their state. And so it is important to have your registration both federally and be recognized by doing a 1023 easy form in your state. So when donors are filing their taxes, they're able to actually write off the donations and things like that they give you. So that would be really the main thing that we see as far as not having those formation documents and then registering with the comptroller. And so that's like really the next step after you have gotten your status as a business. You have to make sure that you register on your state comptroller to get the sales taxes off and like be recognized as a registered charity on the list and things of that nature. And so sometimes people don't know that there are multiple steps after just saying that you're a 501c3. And so that I would say that that is something that we see a lot. And then another thing that we do see a lot as far as nonprofits not filing an annual report when they do their taxes every year. And so sometimes people will think that as soon as they get their 501c3 status, they can just go into doing projects, they're helping out the community and things of that nature, but they're not looking at what compliance is necessary to keep them active yearly. And so we've encountered a couple people that thought they had status, but it was really inactive because they had not been filing taxes or submitting an annual report. So I would say those are really the two main things that we see like on a frequent basis.
Oh, thank you for sharing that because that's definitely something that I know a lot of smaller nonprofits may not realize or may not be aware of. So I have a question for you. Um, what about serving on a board? Like, are there legal ramifications of serving on a board of a nonprofit? I think that that's often something that, people wonder about. Like, what are my, if I serve on this board, are there, what does that mean?
Yeah, definitely. So they call it's something called fiduciary duties. And so when you have fiduciary duties, it's basically the duty of loyalty, obedience, and care, which just basically say that you're going to act and make decisions in the best interest of the organization. And so, if you are not doing it, so say for example, a grant comes to you guys or some type of funder comes to you and you have to vote on the board, but instead of actually looking through the paperwork, reading the eligibility, doing your research on how and who is giving you the funds, and you take the funds or just sign the contract without knowing, that would be you breaking your fiduciary duty because you're supposed to do your due diligence on what you are intertwining your organization with. You need to make sure that it aligns with the mission and vision, that you guys have the capability and the capacity to be able to manage the funds and use them appropriately. And so that's just like a small example. So I would say mainly fiduciary duties are the thing. And then they also have another thing that they call piercing the corporate veil. And so basically nonprofits are essentially treated like a domestic corporation or a limited liability when it comes to responsibility if something was to happen. So say like a board member gets hurt or accidentally hurts someone else or something to that nature. Generally, it would be the organization that would be liable for those things. It wouldn't be the individual owners or the individual board members. However, if the board members do something where they say it's like piercing the corporate veil is when you do something outside of y'all's mission or you do something that is to the detriment of the organization, then you yourself personally or the organization can become responsible legally. So I would say those are really like the main two things that we always tell people to make sure their board is aware of, that you can't just, act in your own interest. It has to be all with the thought of whatever your mission and vision is.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's great information. And again, something that I just think like a lot of nonprofits would like to learn about. So, what services do you offer through your legal group for nonprofit organizations? Do you have multiple services that you offer, and what are those?
Yeah, we definitely have multiple services. I'll let Michael pick up on the services and then I'll close out some of the services that we have.
Yes, yes. Our main service is grant writing services. We're seeing that a lot of clients are always looking to fund it. But before funding it, we always say we help people keep their business. So that would ultimately be filing information. And so that's a lot of what we help with there is at least where we see a lot of assistance with clients on is forming their business and keeping their business. And so or keeping their business and funding their business, right? So once we file and we've helped them keep their business, then we help them fund their business to make sure they keep it for the long term.
Yeah, we
you
we went out a little bit.
yeah.
Sorry. I was saying, yeah, we like to tell people that we help you start and keep your business. So mainly through general counsel services. So if you need contracting, negotiations, if you have like one thing we have been encountering a lot recently with bigger organizations, when you start to get into that trademark type of ordeal. So some nonprofits are getting a lot of traction, and one misconception that people have is that you can't sell products with your organization, but you can sell products as a nonprofit as long as the proceeds are going back to the mission or the operation of the organization. And those are different things that you have to put in your operating agreement and whatever policies that are in your organization, just how you guys will move the money and what percentages can go to what. And so that is the type of service that we help you with, drafting those documents to make sure that your business runs smoothly, that there's a blueprint for if someone was to leave, you have the bylaws, constitution, operating agreements, and things of that nature. And so we do help with that part, the trademark part, and things like that. And then as well as the funding. So grant writing is really a lot of the main thing that people come to us for. However, we do still help with fundraising, like in general. So putting on the event for you, and then also helping with the business credit side for some people that are more so looking into loans and things like that. But most of the time, nonprofits aren't really looking into getting a loan. They more so want to get a grant.
Yes. Well, and I'm so glad that you mentioned selling products because I think that that is an area that many nonprofits overlook. I see nonprofits developing amazing curriculum or, creating programs that could produce products. And often I think that they're not aware that that's part of the business structure that they can include in their mission. So that's exciting that you help them really think through that process and look at the various options. I met you, Chiara, as a grant writer. I was interviewing grant writers to be able to make referrals for, and that's how I met you. And you've done some amazing trainings with me. And so I really appreciate your expertise and your skill in that area, and definitely want to highlight it as a resource for our listeners. So, what other areas of advice do you have for our listeners that they might want to consider? When would they need to seek out legal counsel?
Gotcha. So yes, I would say from the formation of idea. Or if you were even just thinking that you want to have a nonprofit, the good thing about our business is that since we do like consulting as well, so it's like if you are just in idea stage, you need to brainstorm with someone to figure out your name, your vision, your mission, we can start you off right there, just really creating some strategic plans on if you would even be able to manage having a nonprofit. Is it worth the risk and the investment that you and your family are going to have to make? So we really can start right there. And most of the time it is worth the risk. And so then we just move on next to the formation process and things of that nature. And so yes, definitely from the beginning. But I would say the main thing that we do like to have people thinking about as they are starting their nonprofit or as they are rebranding their nonprofit is their board members. And so, one thing that we've been helping out a lot with lately is doing onboarding packets and employee or volunteer handbooks. And so, basically, that just breaks down what their legal obligation is, and then just what their obligations are in the organization. So, when your board comes on, they should know already, the or have some type of document that tells them the name of the staff, how many meetings you guys have, what funds go to what kind of initiatives you have, different things like that, so that they know how to maneuver through the organization. And I always hear people are saying like, oh, like I want to get a conflict of interest or an NDA. And it's like, okay, like that's cool. We can have those legal documents, but like, what are they potentially conflicting? Like you need to first tell people, the details of your organization so that they know what they could possibly do that may be in conflict with the organization. Because with nonprofits, there's really not much that, in my opinion, that is like really big conflicts of interest. But I know that it always is still good to have different policies there with your members. It's just more so I like to encourage people to be clear about what are you wanting this particular person to do or not do, and make it just more plain language than using too many intricate things that may confuse them and then they end up breaking the rule anyway. So I would say those are really like the main things, because who you have in your circle, who you're encountering every day or a regular basis, or who has hands in your business or your assignment is going to be very important. And so you have to do your due diligence and have discernment about who you mix your money with, who you mix your business with, and who ultimately will have merit on your reputation. And reputation is everything with nonprofits, because people are giving you guys money and they're hoping and praying and having faith that you're going to use it for what you said that you're going to do. And even if you, as the founder, are actually doing what you said you're going to do, if you have board members, employees, or volunteers that are not on the same page, that still has merit on your reputation. So we definitely like to do our due diligence with our clients and helping them make sure that they have the correct people in their team.
You said a couple things there that I really want to highlight. So you're saying that policy should be really clear and everyone should be able to understand it, because I think a lot of times the word policy makes it really scary for people.
Yes, yes, definitely. Policies and procedures sound scary, but it's really just how you run your organization. What can you do and what you can't do within the business, just in more simple terms. And so it's definitely important for everyone to know that when they're coming to your building or when they're speaking to you in general, just kind of how you would have a regular relationship that has boundaries that you can or cannot do within those boundaries. You have to have that with your business too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I hope that our listeners, hear that and think about policies and procedures more simply, because a lot of times I do think that it seems scary, but it doesn't have to be scary if we're just talking about how we do everything. So I really like that you talked about that and shared that. So are there any other resources that you would like to highlight that you offer to organizations?
Um, I would say, what's another cool thing that we can help people with? I would say, I would say the last main thing that I do like that about our business that we can offer clients that may be unique to others is that we have a nonprofit as well. And so a lot of times our clients end up collaborating with our nonprofit to do programming together. And there's a thing called fiscal sponsorship. And so fiscal sponsorship is basically when you use another organization's resources in order to do your mission or your project until, maybe you have the resources to do it on your own. So sometimes maybe if you have a project, but you don't have the 501(c)(3) status, and things of that nature, and so you're not able to apply for the grant, you get a fiscal sponsor so that you can use their business documents, and essentially it will go to them in collaboration with you. Or even sometimes fiscal sponsors really actually monetarily like house the organization. They'll keep your money in their business bank account and they'll just distribute it to you as you're doing projects and things of that nature. And so definitely want to throw the fiscal sponsorship out there, because I'm not sure that everyone knows about that, but that is something that we do for our clients sometimes. So sometimes our clients will come to us and they're like, hey, like I have this great project, I know this person, I can get this grant, but like I don't have all of the eligibility. And if it's an opportunity that's advantageous for everyone and the community, then sometimes we'll be able to offer them like, okay, well, we can just sponsor you guys for this project, use our nonprofit, go into partnership and do this project together, and things like that. So that is something unique. Since we do have a nonprofit outside of our law firm, we end up being able to help other nonprofits as far as fiscal sponsorship when they're trying to get off the ground and things of that nature. So definitely wanted to throw that out there for those that may not have all of the eligibility, but do want to actually like go forth with doing the projects and maybe have some resources that they can tap into.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I actually think that fiscal sponsorship is a great first step if you have a great idea, because then you get the opportunity to work alongside a nonprofit and kind of learn the ins and outs of what it takes to have a nonprofit. Maybe a step before jumping in and creating your own nonprofit. And I believe in partnershiping, and that partnerships can create something really beautiful for everybody involved. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, how can our listeners get a hold of you if they need your help?
Yes, definitely. We are on social media, Dr. Ofuani and Dr. Mikey Ofuani. And once you go to our regular pages, all our business pages are there. But we also, Ofuani Legal Group at gmail.com is our email. They can always find us there. And so we are on all social media platforms, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll be happy to help them from there.
Okay, great. And I'll make sure that we post those contacts in the show notes so that our listeners can get directly to you. And I thank you for joining us today. To our podcast listeners, thank you so much for making this possible and for letting us be able to share resources with the nonprofit community. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yes.
Thank you.